Extreme rainfall continuing from Cyclone Cheneso, a huge flooding threat on tonight's tropical weather bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical weather bulletin for January 20th. So we've seen the at least partial demise of two tropical cyclones in the last 24 hours. Irene is now off the charts and is about to reach the international dateline as a extratropical, post-tropical system. Cheneso still hanging in there as a tropical depression, has weakened substantially since it made landfall early this morning. 132 days until hurricane season in the North Atlantic, and things look very quiet there. There is an enhanced risk in the Ohio Valley up in the United States today for severe weather though. Elsewhere around the world, let's take a look down into where it matters right now. 70% chance has been issued from our analyst team for that system that's developing not far from New Caledonia now, continuing southeastwards through the Coral Sea. Elsewhere around Australia, things looking pretty quiet. There's quite a lot of turbulent conditions in the oceanic regions, but no tropical cyclones on the horizon. Elsewhere, let's continue westwards across that big Indian Ocean to the western side where we have tropical depression Cheneso, which is down to 35 miles per hour sustained winds and is currently overland, well overland, over northern Madagascar and dumping huge amounts of rainfall, we believe, over the entire region. We've not received much information about what's happened in Madagascar recently, of course. They are still right underneath that right now. Satellite imagery in the last 24 hours depicts quite a lot of red in that area. You can see the storm that made landfall there, and quite a lot of red out towards the eastern Australian region as well, and towards the Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands. So lots of rainfall potential in that entire region there. Well, this is the satellite imagery progress of Cheneso in the last few hours. This probably covers maybe a 6-hour period, and you can see it's been continuing to push through towards the southwest and is still moving at a fair speed, hasn't stalled completely, and is still delivering quite a bit of rainfall under that deep convection that's in a sort of reverse S shape from the southeast to the northwest. So that interior region there, they'll be getting lots of rainfall, and that northwestern coastal area, and that's what models have been depicting for expectations. Now this is a progression of the storm's landfall sequence there. That was earlier on the 19th, and then moving inland over the course of the rest of the day. It made landfall quite a bit later than we expected it to. We were expecting it to do it at about early hours of the morning local time on Thursday, but as it happened, it was in the later hours of the morning, sort of towards midday actually there, and then it continued to move inland. Lots of high amounts of convection there around the landfall point, and a big line of it there as it was continuing towards the southwest as well. So lots of energy in that system. It made a category 1 landfall. Our analyst team had it pegged it at 80 miles per hour. That's 125 kilometers per hour sustained winds, and now it is down to 35. The rainfall expectations are really off the charts in some areas. We'll go on to that properly in a little while, but suffice to say, very large amounts of northern and central Madagascar are in for extreme flooding risks. And back to the wider shot, it's not the best imagery there. Looks like it's having a little bit of a problem. And here's a little look at what's left of Irene down there in the South Pacific. Wasn't lying, it is completely gone there and is torn itself apart actually as it continues southeastwards at a fair amount of pace. Sea surface temperatures, looking around the world map, look out for anything over 80 degrees Fahrenheit, that's around 26.5 Celsius, that's prime for tropical cyclone development. The Eastern Pacific doesn't have very much of that going on right now, as you'd imagine, and in the Atlantic only one or two small areas of the Caribbean, although this graphic probably underestimates a little. The Arabian Sea looking decent, especially near the coast of India, up towards 28 Celsius. The Southwest Indian Ocean, where Cheneso is, of course, temperatures really ripe and high there, especially in the Mozambique Channel. If it does make it, regeneration prospects are high, with temperatures well up there, 29 degrees plus. Up towards the North Indian Ocean, we're not expecting anything there anytime soon, but temperatures are good, 28. Off the west coast of Australia, still a little bit below average, but some decent temperatures still near the Kimberley region, 28 to 29 degrees. Gulf of Carpentaria, 29 plus. Coral Sea, 28 plus. The South Pacific round Fiji, 28 to 29 degrees Celsius there as well. The deep tropics of the Western Pacific, as usual, looking good, up above 28, and in the South China Sea also looking very good there, with temperatures up to around 27 degrees Celsius at least. Yeah, fascinating. Well, let's take a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies, and you can see there that the Western Pacific is above average by quite a way. The La Nina effect is dying off very quickly in relative terms, and down in the southern hemisphere it's very hit and miss actually. The Mozambique Channel above average, the Indian Ocean proper is mixed, and the Australian region is quite a bit below average, and the northern coastlines still means it's very warm though. Coral Sea slightly above, and near Fiji there as well, a big area there of above average. The oceanic heat content is looking decent right down to Fiji and Tonga and the southern islands of Vanuatu. The issue that storms really run into around there is wind shear, as we saw with Irene, and up towards the Western Pacific now you've still got that orange patch south of Guam, which really developed in the last 2 weeks or so. Certainly surprised me. Well, let's take a look at what the computer models have to offer, the GFS particularly. This is what the next 5 days show from that particular model run, and you can see Cheneso's remnants continue to swirl around the western coast of Madagascar and then start to move north again. It's hard to detect there properly, with lots of gale force strong winds occurring time and again, but we've just drawn a little crude track there suggesting what the GFS is pointing out, a movement hairpin turn there back up towards the northeast, and could regenerate as tropical storm anywhere along there. Track forecast very uncertain though, I should mention. There's that inverse moving towards New Caledonia, becomes a brief tropical storm probably, but really blows itself out before it really reaches New Caledonia and stalls actually, so it never actually makes landfall. And looking out towards the Australian region there, you can see that other system not very well supported outside of the GFS model, so I still wouldn't put much onto that one just yet, but GFS at least has been consistent with that compact tropical storm making a beeline for the Queensland coast. And here is the expected rainfall accumulations for Madagascar over the next 7 days, and would you look at some of these amounts. Getting into those pink areas, that's above 20 inches, and some of the lighter pink regions there as well, getting up above 30 inches of rain. And in those small pocket of grey down there, look at that, 43 inches. That is nearly 1100 millimeters of rainfall in the next 7 days, and large areas of near and over 30 inches up north as well, and that correlates to nearly 800 millimeters of rainfall. Large areas there getting over 500 millimeters in the next 7 days is a recipe for disaster, and really substantial flooding. And I don't think it's an overestimate there, because even smaller amounts of rainfall, we're talking 300, 400, can cause major flooding issues. Check the longer range and you'll see that the pain continues there, with Cheneso moving back inland and then something emerging off the coast there. Whether that's still the same system or not, probably is, and gets larger and larger. There's one or two little systems off the coast there as well, one there near Mauritius moving off towards the south, a sort of a split off there, and then that other system that almost developed further towards the northeast. So really messy situation across the whole region in store by the looks of things. Scan the barcode and take a look at the Force 13 merch store, where we have all of our usual items, and you can request full season and individual storm animations on there as well, and are still waiting for Hone. Make it your prized possession. Well, let's enter the silly range. Day 10 to 16. What happens with Cheneso's remnants? They're continuing there for a little bit. It's a tropical storm again, and two more systems form behind it. One of them becomes a strong system again. Looks like Cheneso round 2, perhaps a little bit stronger than it, and larger certainly. And then it blows up again in the Mozambique Channel. Literally pushes Cheneso out of the picture, really forces it into a landfall into Mozambique in the end, I think it was. It's a very weak system by that point, but you just imagine the amount of rain that all of this will be producing, and two other systems there behind it as well. Just extraordinary if anything like that was to come to fruition. Anyways, you can talk about that and anything else around the wide world of weather on our Discord server, discord.gg/force13. Well then, what happened on this day? It was January 20th, 2002 when we saw the rise of Cyclone Irene, a very impressive looking tropical cyclone that mainly stayed out to sea, if I'm not mistaken. A powerful Category 4 storm it was. I think it was a borderline Category 5, 155 miles per hour at peak. And there it is, a picture of it there. Fascinating appearance to that storm. It was the only thing active on that date in 2002. You can see the rest of the world there was looking relatively quiet, apart from a big frontal system moving across the east coast of the United States. Well then, moving back to this year, and the first name was still awaiting in the Atlantic. Some say we should have had it already. It's Irene. The Eastern Pacific, Adrian first up, and in the Central Pacific we are still waiting for Hone. 5 storms this year so far, all in the Southern Hemisphere. The Western Pacific, first name coming up would be Sanvu, and in the North Indian Ocean the next name on its list is Mocha. Look towards the Southern Hemisphere, Cheneso being the strongest storm of the year so far. The next name on the Australian region list is Freddie, Southwest Indian Ocean, Dingani, and in the South Pacific it's Judy. That's all from tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin. We'll be back again tomorrow night.